Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Assistive Technology for Aging Adults. This is a Minnesota NEAT webinar, Minnesota Networking and Education for Assistive Technology. We're so excited that you're here with us today. We have a ton of awesome info to talk with you about for aging adults and how to support you all or the people you care about in your lives. So, a few shopkeeping things to start out with. This will be recorded and put up on the Minnesota NEAT website. So that way, if you'd like to watch it again or someone missed it, it will be available as a recording about 1 week after we finish up this presentation. We'll also make sure that any notes or presentations that we had from today are available on our website as well. At the end of our presentations, we always have about 30 minutes for Ask the Expert. So, who we consider experts in this field are any of our presenters for today, and we also have some folks who are from DHS that were lovely enough to spend their time with us today to be available to answer any questions that you have. Also, if you would like to submit questions, we would love to answer your questions either throughout the webinar or during Ask the Expert. To submit a question, use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. I have a picture of it up here. So there's a little Q&A button. You can press that, type your question in, and if it is really pertinent to what the presenter is talking about, I will flag them down and ask the question. If it can wait until the end, I will save it for the Ask the Expert portion. Also, we have closed captions available if you'd like them. So you can click the closed caption button also on the bottom of your screen. If that's missing, you can click the three little dots for the More section and the closed caption option will pop up. You can have it change colors, get bigger, smaller, all of that good stuff. And we are so excited to have you with us today. If there's anything else that you need to have a great presentation today, feel free to just let us know. Chat me. My name's Kiri Tram. I'm a board member of Minnesota NEAT and Director of Disability Initiatives at LifeWorks. And then here's our schedule for today. So we're going to start out hearing from DHS and how they're supporting assistive technology for older adults. We're then going to go into DME and home modifications. We're going to hear about vision and hearing, then safety and cognition, CRS group homes assistive technology for older adults, and then finally ask the expert. Also, if you have no idea what any of these acronyms are or what they mean, that is okay. That's what all of these experts are here to explain in plain language and how assistive technology can help you, your loved ones, or maybe the people on your caseload. This webinar really is for anybody who might use this assistive technology or a family member that might use the assistive technology, as well as professionals who need to learn more about authorizing this assistive tech. So next up, I would love to welcome Anna from DHS to talk about DHS and assistive technology.
Hi, thanks everyone. My name is Anna McIntyre, and I am the policy lead for the Disability Services Division for all of the technology related services. So, assistive technology, specialized equipment and supplies, monitoring technology, PERS, and remote support. So, which we have approved for 27 waiver services. So good morning and welcome to DHS and Minnesota NEAT's first webinar of 2026. We are excited. We do these webinars on a quarterly basis, tackling different topics related to technology. We are pleased to see so many participants in attendance as we have such a great one for you this morning, which is assistive technology for aging adults, which is such an important topic. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that the place you know best, your home, suddenly feels like it's working against you. For many older adults, the biggest fear isn't illness or even aging itself. It's losing independence. It's being forced to leave a home full of memories because everyday tasks become just a little too hard. Home is where routines live. It is where people feel capable, connected, and in control. And for families and providers, it's often where care works best. The challenge is that as needs change, homes don't automatically change with them. And then small tasks can become barriers, and minor risks can turn into major safety concerns. And too often, the solution often becomes very costly relocation instead of support. Nearly 90% of older adults say they want to remain in their homes as they age. Yet every year, millions are forced to move, not because they want to, but because their homes no longer meet their needs. Assistive technology offers a powerful solution for this. When thoughtfully implemented, it enables individuals to remain in their homes longer, reduces caregiver burden, and supports healthier aging outcomes. Today, technology has the power to support independence, preserve dignity, and help people to safely remain in their homes longer, not by replacing human care, but by strengthening it. Assistive technology gives us the opportunity to shift aging from a model of crisis response to one of proactive support. It allows homes to adapt as people age rather than forcing people to adapt to environments that no longer serve them. Today, we will explore how assistive technology is not just a convenience, but a critical component of modern Jeez, I'm going to start that over. Today, we will explore how assistive technology is not just a convenience, but a critical component of modern aging. Thank you again for taking time out of your busy days to be with us this morning. And we really hope you appreciate the information that you're receiving. And as others have said, we will be around to answer questions, including myself. I will be able to answer policy-related questions on behalf of DHS. So thank you very much. And I'll hand it over to our first presenter.
Thank you, Anna. I would love to welcome up Sue to the stage to talk about DME and home modifications.
Right. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to be talking about durable medical equipment, DME, and home modifications. And in each of these, I'll explain what gets covered by Medicaid, Medicare, insurance, and waiver. I'm from Live Life Therapy Solutions. We're a home and community provider that does assistive technology for smart home technology, home modification, durable medical equipment, and we also do wheelchair assessments and communication assessments in home. Right. I can get it to go. Okay. So we're going to cover durable medical equipment first. And durable medical equipment is an item that is medically necessary, and it's intended to be used over a longer period of time. These tend to be devices that are typically more expensive, and you go through a provider to obtain them, like Reliable Medical, Handy Medical, APA Medical. A medical company works with an occupational therapist or a physical therapist and a physician to obtain these through Medicaid, Medicare, or insurance. So these items are often paid in that way. But they do have very specific guidelines and also very specific things that they can and cannot cover. So I'm going to go over that first. Mobility aids are considered durable medical equipment, and a lot of people will have walkers or rollators like this one on the left, which is a seat and a walker and has brakes. They come with a variety of features and wheel sizes. And again, the OT or PT that's working with the durable medical equipment company needs to see the person in their home environment or in a clinic and watch them use these devices to see which one meets their needs. And then we write up a medical letter of medical necessity, which goes to the medical provider, like durable medical provider, reliable, handy medical, APA medical. There's a lot of different ones throughout the state of Minnesota. And then a physician needs to write a prescription. And for many of these more expensive items, they also need to do a face-to-face visit with the person and get that paperwork over to the durable medical equipment provider. All of those pieces of equipment pieces of paperwork go in for the equipment to get approved. And then there are some negotiations sometimes with the person's insurance company, Medicaid or Medicare, if certain items can't be approved that we had on our list. Wheelchairs fall under there, so it can be a manual wheelchair, a transportation chair, which is a lighter chair that folds up more easily, or a scooter can be another option. A lot of people do request scooters, and one thing that an OT and a PT look at first is positioning. We can't do a lot of positioning in a scooter, and a person really needs to have very good balance in transporting themselves in and out. And then we also have to show that the scooter can be used not just outside, but in the home too. So there's a lot of factors that go into looking at that by the therapist. And we do go over that with the family and with the case manager, whoever's on that person's team. If the person is needing a power wheelchair, because of positioning, they need help transferring, or they're using a Hoyer lift or some type of lift for transferring, then we start looking at these types of chairs. And a lot of people don't know it, but just like a car, a wheelchair has front wheel drive, mid wheel drive, and rear wheel drive. And the therapist picks which type based on how the person's going to be using it, how much they use it outside, how the turn radius needs to be, how big the home is, all of those factors. All of these pieces of durable medical equipment can be evaluated in a clinic. So oftentimes a person does go to a PT or OT clinic for these things, but they also can be done by home care, OT or PT, or home and community-based services if the person can't be seen by a clinic therapist or they don't have that skill. Bathing equipment is also durable medical equipment. So rehab shower chairs like these that are more complex can be paid for by your insurance company, Medicaid, Medicare, but again, needs an occupational therapist, physical therapist, and a physician to approve them. The one on the left, the power bath lift, that lift, the person transfers onto the seat and slides their legs over the bathtub. And then they have a power assist. So it's a remote that the person can go down into the tub to soak and then come back up and transfer off. The person does need to be able to transfer with assistance or on their own and have good support for sitting in the water. The middle one is a sliding seat. So that blue seat comes over to the end when the person's getting onto it. And then either the person or their caregiver can pull the handle and slide the person over the tub. This one is used typically with a handheld shower. It doesn't submerge into the tub, but it's something that someone can use to be able to either take a shower by themselves in a seated position or to get help. And then the other chair is a rolling rehab like shower chair. So if somebody has a roll-in shower, which we'll talk about in a little bit, this can be rolled into the shower and the person could get from their bed into it with help, and then the person would have like a PCA or caregiver push them into their bathroom shower and be able to take a shower. You can also use a lift to get someone in and out of this chair, either by their bedside or in the bathroom. So all of these would be considered durable medical equipment. And again, the therapist looks at the person's abilities, what their house is laid out like, how much space there is, and then selects the best item to meet their needs. There are also lifts in someone's home. So There can be lifts that are power lifts that the caregiver that's helping the person has a remote, and that's a power lift in and out of bed. There's also manual lifts, like the one on the right, the white one. That isn't based on preference, it's based on needs. The OT and PT have criteria, and the power lift really does mean that the caregiver and the person needs that power assistance, and they have criteria that have to be met for that. So there are a lot of people that will only qualify for the manual lift. This is an item, though, that the person is able to either pay or have waiver pay for the power assist part. They don't always allow that with MA insurance and Medicaid, but this would be one item that could be allowable for that. Hospital beds are another piece of equipment that a person can get that can be paid for as durable medical equipment. The one thing that people do always ask for is a wider bed or a double bed or a queen size bed or a king size bed. There is not a hospital bed that is a double or a queen or a king size bed. If the person needs a bariatric bed, that's the blue mattress. That is a little bit larger, but the person's weight has to be in that bariatric range. They can't request that size bed. And again, beds like this come with a power head up and down for someone. And then the crank, usually like the dark blue bed for the bed to go up and down that a caregiver would do, or to raise and lower the feet. A fully electric bed is something that's available, but again, it has to have criteria of the person having skin breakdown or needing to have their feet elevated for some disability that they have that's active, and then for them to be able to do their head and their feet by themselves. So there are criteria we have to meet for that. The mattresses are just a typical foam mattress, but if the person has had active skin breakdown, persistent skin breakdown, or other medical conditions that we can get a doctor to write for not just the standard mattress, then we can look at air mattresses and other mattresses that are available. Lift chairs, that's a chair that helps somebody be able to stand from a seated position. The lift component is considered durable medical, but the chair itself would need to be paid for by the person or by the waiver. So this one is kind of a half and half, but they also come with power assist that's very basic, like up and down, and some that have more buttons. But it's really important to try these with people because people can't always handle all of the buttons. Communication devices are also considered durable medical equipment, and that requires a speech therapist to do an assessment either in the clinic, home care, or home and community waiver-based services. And that's for somebody who is not able to speak for themselves. Maybe they had a stroke, or they have ALS, which is a disease that progressively can affect someone's ability to speak. Then this is also the last item for durable medical. There are feeding apparatuses. The one on the left, the white one, is the OB feeder. And that one, someone would set the person up and they would use switches to feed themselves. And the one on the right is called the robotic arm. That one, you can pick things up off the floor, you can feed yourself, you can push elevator buttons. It's a more robust system. And both of these can be covered by as DME. Home modifications, now we're getting into what home and community-based waivered services can pay for, and or if the person's not on a waiver, would be a private pay item. A lot of people need ramps to get in and out of their house or in and out of their garage, or threshold ramps because the door isn't flush and even for them to get their wheelchair or walker in and out. Aluminum ramps are often what people will get now because they're easier to put up. They've made them so they're not slippery in the winter. They're easier to take care of. And you have a platform and the ramp, and then the threshold ramps are rubber or metal and rubber. And then the last one is a garage with a lift. So a lot of people will have a lifting mechanism to be able to go up and down. so it doesn't take up their whole garage. Ceiling lifts are another option if someone doesn't have space for that Hoyer lift or that larger lift, and or they need to do multiple rooms. These can be in the bedroom to bed. It can also go throughout the house, go to the bathroom. These are paid for by the waiver. Stair lifts are a seat that the person would take up and down the stairs if their bedroom or their space that they need to get to is on another level. They have a lot of different kinds depending on the shape of the stairs. And then they also do make a wheelchair version if the stairs are wide enough. All of these really do need an occupational therapist or a PT to look at before the contractors do the bid, ideally, to make sure that the person and or their family can use these items and they are medically necessary for that person, and that there's not better solutions before you get a bid. Bathroom modifications can be very simple, from grab bars by the toilet, grab bars in a variety of spots in the shower, and or outside of the shower. Again, it's really important to look at where the person needs those, how to place them before the contractor does a bid for those. Kitchen modifications can be simple rolling under a sink. It can be more complex, like a lower refrigerator, lower drawers that can pull out for somebody in their cupboards. It can be automatic soap dispensers and faucets, and it can be a workstation that the person has to be able to help with cooking. Those are all waiver considered items. And door openers are waiver considered home items, so someone can let someone in. A lot of people I see can't let their caregivers in, can't unlock the door unless they have a remote or can use voice access or have smart locks. So that's a home modification. And then simple items, having support to get out of bed. So the one on the left is something that goes under the mattress and gives the person a handle to be able to support to get up. There's also ones that are made for a sofa, and there's also poles that can be secured to the ground and to the ceiling, so someone can turn and pull and lift where they need it. I'm going to send this so you have some stories of people that we've seen. So she has a communication device and a mount. We have all different types of technology that we use for smart home technology, and this gentleman has a robotic arm. I already went over funding, but I'll give this to you and I'm done. That was really quick, but all of these services are available in clinics and or through waivered services.
Thank you, Sue. We have just a couple questions for your presentation specifically, if you have a moment.
Oh, sure.
Awesome. Thank you. So the first one is, so just to clarify, if someone qualifies for a Hoyer lift, the waiver could still cover the electric portion of the lift. Would this be true of the hospital beds upgrading to electric as well?
At times, yes. Beds are a little different, so we would look at that, or an OT or PT would look at that on case by case, but we can let the case manager know, or the OT or PT in the clinic can, on which ones can be upgraded. But usually the answer is yes. There will be some that, like Medicare, can be really picky and might say no.
Awesome. Thank you. And
Yeah.
then one more for this one. Can chair lifts be added to any type of chair, or are there specific chairs that can only use the power lifts?
So those chairs that I showed you, they are bought that way, but you can add a lifting seat to someone's couch or their chair, and that's different. That would be waiver paid for, though not any durable medical equipment would cover. And we would, or an OT would need to try that, or a PT, to make sure that person could use it. That's a good question.
Awesome. Thank you. And
Yeah.
I see some other questions coming in. We're gonna save them for Sue until the end, so that way the rest of the presenters can hop on. Thank you, Sue. And next, I would like to welcome up Sam to talk about vision and hearing.
Great. Thanks so much. Let me share my screen with you and speak loudly. Yeah, my name is Sam. I am also an occupational therapist here to talk about vision and hearing. Um, So let me flip to the next one. When we talk about vision and assistive technology related to aging, we're considering many things, including contrast, lighting, organization, compensatory senses, and compensatory strategies. So, for example, increasing the brightness of the lighting in your home can help you see more clearly, not only to read, but to do other things, like seeing what you are cooking, for an example. In addition to lighting, increasing the contrast of the items that you are using can make it easier to see. Um, and then organizing so that everything in your home has a spot and can be easily located to save time and energy if you have low vision or lose your vision. Additionally, enlarging, magnifying, and utilizing hearing or touch as those compensatory senses with the right tools and adaptations can help you be more independent despite vision loss. Combining all of these together to the extent possible maximizes independence and safety. So I have a couple examples on the screen: increasing the contrast, cutting a white onion on a black cutting board, because white and black are contrasting colors, can make it easier to see. And then you can see from my example here that the increasing the lighting under a cabinet can increase your ability to see as well. Oop, there's our slide. So if you add that under cabinet lighting to brighten the area you're cooking and you use that black cutting board to cut the white onion, it could make it much easier for you to see. Sorry, those are those pictures I was talking about. The overall idea with the contrast is that you use two objects of opposing colors. Obviously, not everything can be black and white, but as opposing as you can get them, it makes them easier to distinguish from each other. Additionally, like a dark stairwell with added strip lighting and then bright tape along each stair edge paired with a stable railing could increase the visibility of the stairs that you're seeing and reduce the risk of falls. So notice that also on that picture in the stairwell, there's that dark high contrast light switch on the right side of the wall. So having that black against white makes it easier to see where that lighting is. Added lighting in general can come from task lamps, headlamps, LED strips, ambient room lamps, or even just higher wattage bulbs and overhead fixtures that you already have. The best option kind of depends on the task, but sometimes trying for a combination of those different lighting can work as well. For some compensatory senses, adaptive tools and strategies can help. Someone could also use like an around the neck magnifier, a food processor, a vegetable chopper, adaptive knives, or cut resistant gloves for safety when cooking as well. If you have low vision, those are additional things that can keep you safe. Other devices that can be very helpful for low vision and or aging in the kitchen include jar openers for people with arthritis, liquid level indicators, that's the picture on the left there. You can put them on the edge of a cup and they beep when liquid touches them. And talking devices include like thermometers and scales and things like that. Let's see, last here. So you could additionally consider adding tactile markers and bump dots to items to make them easier for you to use. They can be used to mark a specific button on a device. That's the picture on the left there. Those orange things are bump dots. Actually, there's a couple different ones on there, and they can help you navigate which button is which to use as a landmark. Or you can use another item to mark what an item is for you. So like with the medication bottle and the orange medication bottle there's 3 rubber bands on it, as opposed to if you had another medication bottle with maybe 2 rubber bands on it, it would indicate that that's a different kind of medication for you to take. Other tools you can use include puff paint to outline appliance buttons to find those really easy. The device on the top right there, that long black skinny device, is called a pen friend. It uses small sticker dots that the user can voice record and stick to things like spices, and then tap the pen to that sticker to hear the label that was spoken into it. So speaking can be really nice there. It may seem obvious, but it is also recommended to be very intentional about how things are organized and labeled in the kitchen or the bathroom and other areas of the home where your resources are stored. So keeping all the silverware in the same drawer, like a drawer organizer, can make it much faster to find things. And then using refrigerator organizing bins by category, like sauce, or always putting fresh ingredients at the top shelf and leftover containers on the lower shelf. Then you know exactly where the spoons are. You know exactly where the food is, and you don't have to try to look for them with low vision. So it's tough for everyone, but also reducing the clutter to the extent possible reduces more unnecessary barriers and requires you to use your vision less to find things. Additionally, trying to use large print labels can be good there too in those different areas of your home, and you can get creative with it and use multiple. I did want to touch on magnification. If you have added those additional measures of lighting and contrast and organizing, magnification can also benefit many older adults. Handheld magnifiers like the one on the left enlarge to a larger diopter power and are useful for quick identification or short reading tasks. Video magnifiers, which is the one in the middle, and the larger CCTV magnifiers offer clear pictures and features for continuous reading tasks. And then stand magnifiers can be good for hands-free tasks. They stand on what you are trying to read instead of you having to hold it with your hand. And then lastly, iPhones and iPads come with a built-in magnifier app that allows you to increase or change the filter, increase contrast and the brightness of what you're looking at. Android users can also download a magnifier apps in the Play Store. So there are some video magnifiers and CCTVs that also have built-in OCR, which is optical character recognition. It recognizes written content and reads the words to you. However, there are also other dedicated devices like the Orcam or Meta smart glasses and smartphone apps that can do the same thing. So our example is a Seeing AI here, and we made a little video of that. So this video I'm going to play is the usage of Seeing AI app that you can download on an Android or an Apple. So that took a picture of the flyer that would be mailed to you, and then it processed it and can read it out loud to you. And again, that is a free, yeah.
Just a quick note, the audio didn't come through to us. Can you say roughly what that was saying?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. So in the video, when you saw it highlight the flyer in blue, it said right edge not visible. So that means you would need to adjust your camera to see all edges of the document. And then you clicked a capture button. It said beep, boop, beep, beep, processing. And then that's what created this typed out image that you're seeing here. And it would initiate reading what was on the flyer to you using that Seeing AI. There's also some additional features included on these apps like currency identification, color identification, and many more. And the best thing about them is that they're free. So you can go ahead and check those out on the App Store. Oh, it's playing it for me. Okay. We did want to talk about communication for both safety and social well-being and how crucial they are to healthy aging, and that they can be affected by low vision. So there's adaptive phones like the large button phone you see in the third image there. There's also a plethora of settings to enhance smartphone accessibility. So if you have a smartphone, there's things you can change on it to make it more accessible without purchasing a different kind of phone. There's voice assistance, there's visual enhancements. You can set up your voice assistant to say, call Sam on speaker, and it will dial the call, place it on speakerphone for you, which is much easier than pressing all of the buttons to find the contact and dial the number and press the speaker button and all of that. One of our favorite and most recommended features is the Apple Assistive Access for iPhones and iPads. That is the image on the right there. It's configurable to only include the apps the person needs, and is extra simplified and extra large, making the phone less overwhelming and easier to see. You can also check out other accessibility settings in your phone settings and explore other visual enhancements like color filters and hover text and hover typing. We also just wanted to touch on how important it is to be able to engage in important and valued leisure tasks. It's great for overall health and well-being, and is important to find ways to continue to socialize. So just wanted to touch on the fact that there are many adaptive tools and devices that exist, like large print playing cards, tactile checkers, talking glow dice, and large print bingo cards, and much, much more. There's many large print everyday tools that come out there you might not have thought of. They include address books and check registers, pens that write boldly so they're easier to see. And I overall would just highly recommend looking into a website called MaxiAids. That's MaxiAids.com. They have a ton of wonderful devices. They're organized by category, whether it's vision or hearing or mobility. And that brings me to my next slide about hearing. So if you experience any amount of hearing loss, it can inhibit many areas of life, including but not limited to your social participation, your leisure engagement, your community mobility, your home safety, your health management, and if you're able to prepare meals safely. So, for example, if someone can't hear what the doctor is saying, they might not remember what medication changes were made. If someone doesn't hear the timer go off for the hot dish they're making, how are they going to remember to take it out of the oven before it turns to a crisp? A 2023 study conducted by the National Institute on Aging did report that people from a heart health study who had a higher risk of dementia, they benefited from hearing aids, and that benefit was substantial. Those who received hearing aids had almost a 50% reduction in the rate of cognitive decline compared to people in that health education group alone. The lead researcher of that said, until we know more, we recommend for general health and well-being that older adults have their hearing checked regularly and any hearing issues properly addressed. That being said, my main point here is to please get your hearing checked if you do feel you have any hearing loss. If you feel your hearing loss is mild to moderate, there are devices out there like the Apple AirPods Pro 2 and AirPods Pro 3 that can provide clinical grade hearing aid features, as well as the Media Assist feature that enhances the clarity of music, video, and calls. So users can locate those settings and can locate the hearing or the AirPods themselves in a Find My app that comes on Apple's in case they get lost, because we know those hearing aids are so small and lost easily. I wanted to talk about a couple devices that I highlight here that can help someone hear better or can capture spoken word and turn it into written words. The first is called a pocket talker. That's on the right there. It amplifies sound captured by the microphone and allows someone to hear them louder in the headphones. They're wonderful to wear anytime a person is talking to someone one-on-one to allow them to better engage in social settings. But if those don't work for you, there are devices that can increase the sound level of alarms in a home, like smoke alarms or carbon monoxide detectors or even alarm clocks. The alarm clock shown on this slide actually has a bed shaker. That's that black puck to the left of it. It can be placed under your bed and it will vibrate your bed when the alarm goes off if you're having trouble hearing the alarm. So besides using tactile feedback like those vibrations, light can also be used as an alternative form. And we wanted to mention that smartphone features can be enabled to turn on flashing and vibrations for feedback with any kind of alarm when a phone call comes in, when an alarm goes off, all of those specific things. And so that can help ensure that you are hearing those alarms, or at least acknowledging those alarms if you can't hear them, rather. Lastly, I just wanted to mention that there are some features on phones like Apple's Live Captions and Android's Live Transcribe that can turn spoken word into written words on a screen to ensure the words spoken are being understood. It can be enabled both for phone calls and in-person conversations. So I hope some of these examples were really helpful or sparked your interest in the assistive technology to make your lives easier or the life of someone you know easier. It's not an exhaustive list, of course, but it can be a great starting point. So see if I can stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Sam. And we have a few questions for you before we get next person up.
Yeah.
There are a lot of questions, but I'm just going to ask a few of them and save the rest for our Q&A at the end.
Yeah.
For individuals that have vision loss challenges, are the items you discussed only available under a waiver, or are they available for someone who doesn't have a waiver or MA insurance but private insurance?
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to share my screen. A lot of the items that I talked about aren't covered under medical insurance. They could be covered by a waiver. But or they could be private pay like that maxaids.com. You can just go on there on your own accord and look through those. A lot of the devices that I talked about aren't covered by medical insurance, can be covered by waiver.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
then this person wants to know specifically about vision loss services,
Sure.
and vision loss services can help and pay for some equipment before the waiver does.
That's a great question. Like currently, we have some grants that can help pay for those services. I think it depends on what provider you go to and what resources they have. But typically the three main ways that I'm seeing these devices paid for, or the two main ways, I guess, would be private pay or waiver services.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, and next up we have Sherry and Laura. And we have gotten some requests to just speak a little bit slower from all of our presenters, if we could do that. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Sherry, and Laura and I are going to be co-presenting on this next one, Assistive Technology for Aging Adults, Safety and Cognition. I am going to try and speak slower. That is a very hard thing for me to do. I will try. Hello, I'm Sherry. I'm ATP with Mercaric, and I'm up here in Duluth. I serve all of northern Minnesota. We provide statewide assistive technology services. We are an assistive technology consulting firm focused on evaluation, design, and implementation of multiple tailored systems to enhance the lives of people with varying disabilities, physical disabilities, or intellectual challenges. The heart of our mission is to empower individuals with disabilities. We are dedicated professionals from diverse backgrounds, and our staff brings wealth of expertise and passions to our work.
So hello, I'm Laura. I'm with Outlook Therapy in Duluth, Minnesota. I'm an occupational therapist and an ATP. Our work at Outlook focuses on helping adults with IDD function better in their day-to-day environments. We're not just looking at devices, we're looking at routines and systems, communication, sensory needs, and cognition, and then looking at how assistive technology can support those pieces when needed. Really looking at sustainable supports for making life easier for the person and for the team supporting them. So today we're going to talk about safety and cognition and assistive technology to support that. When we're talking about safety and cognition, we're really talking about how someone moves through their day, how they make decisions, follow their routines, and how they respond when something unexpected happens. Cognition and safety are really closely connected. Most safety issues don't come from not knowing what to do or from a lack of services. Most of the time, it's actually more about a breakdown in routine or follow through of what they're aware of. And then sometimes just because of a lack of awareness. So our goal with assistive technology is reducing the cognitive load and not adding complexity. If a person has to think about the steps in order to use a device or navigate menus or troubleshoot it, then we're just looking at more of a safety risk than a help. And then we're always thinking like beyond the individual. Technology has to work for the individual, for the caregivers, and the whole system supporting them. It's not just going to work in the ideal conditions. We have to look at, okay, what's the realistic way that this piece of technology might support them and where they might have difficulties, so we can try to minimize that. Oops. So this is an infographic, and it's just kind of looking at how I look at a person to think about how assistive technology might help them. So looking at the whole person, we're looking at the individual, what their needs are, their habits and their capabilities, and then their routines. What are they doing from day to day? What's their schedule like, and the behaviors that they might have, and putting those into the environment that they're in. What is their actual physical surroundings? Are they in a house or apartment? Are they alone or with other people? And then that social context too. So all of that goes together to impact a person's safety and gives us ideas of what we can do to promote that safety, security, and well-being.
So emergency response or reassurance monitoring devices, there are many out there to choose from. The primary function for a PERS, a personal emergency response system, is that it's a user-initiated request for help, such as like the AlloCare. There's a picture on my top left. It's a photo of some white different shaped devices, part of the AlloCare system. There's also a Freedom Alert, my bottom right corner, a square device with a smaller looking pager. The Freedom Alert is a little different. You basically purchase the device and then there's no reoccurring fee along with the Freedom Alert. Some of them there are, some of them they're not. There's another, the monitoring or reassurance devices, those provide continuous or passive monitoring. In the example that I have shown in the bottom left is Boundary Care. It's basically paired with an Apple Watch and an iPhone. There's also a dashboard that can be seen on a laptop or a desktop and make some of those changes that you might need for specific health data. And then there's an Angel Sense, which is not shown here. That functions in much of the same way. My upper right corner, I pictured a Sky Angel 911. It has fall detection. You can take it wherever you need to. There's no landline required. There's no contractor agreements or fees. You can press the button and speak with the 911 operator, even if you're not with your home. One thing about PERS, they need to be worn in order to work. Pairing with training, making sure that the person knows how to use the device, knows that they have the device. PERS are most appropriate when there is insight, willingness to wear, and a clear response plan. So just a little side note, going out to houses, I tend to start with, okay, what current technology do you use? And we talk about that for a while. And I look around and I see, like I might see a reacher, I might see a rollator or a wheelchair, and I might see some type of a PERS system sitting in a windowsill or down on the bottom of one of the tables. And they didn't know that they had it, or they didn't know what it was. They're like, well, I have that, but it came in the mail. I don't know what it is. And so, I'm like, can I grab it? Can I look at it? And they'll let me look at it and everything. And here it's, a watch that they can wear, and there's a button they can push for SOS. One other one, she didn't know that she was supposed to have it on her. So if she said that if she falls and happens to fall in the living room and she can reach it, then she'll use it, but she didn't realize that she should have it, whether it be worn on the wrist or if it's a pendant around your neck. So some of them have auto fall detection. Some are GPS enabled systems, and they can offer 1 or 2 way voice response. So that's a little bit about emergency response and reassurance or monitoring devices. There are a number of them that are out there, and I'm just showing and talking about a few because we don't have much time. The next slide is about medication and health-related safety. So, and this varies as well. You know, you can see in my the top right corner, I have basically a weekly, it starts with a Sunday, and then so there's a large S for Sunday, and then so on and so forth. And so that might be what people need to keep their medications handy for them. Some people might want something that maybe is a little more like maybe it's Wi-Fi enabled, maybe they lock so the person doesn't take too many. Maybe they'll send you an alert when you have forgotten them, or you can send a notification to a family member when there's a missed dose. Some have a reoccurring fee for their services. Some do not. Some are just for the day. Some are for maybe a week, and some are for a complete month. It really varies on what somebody needs, what level of reminder that they may need, and also maybe even the size of or how many medications that they take. Medication errors are a common safety risk. Technology fails when there's not routine integration, and training matters more than features. Medication technology is often requested after the error happens, so earlier referrals reduces crisis-driven decisions. So I have a few photos here, and one of the photos is on the far left is a dose, and that those can be used with an app on somebody's phone or tablet. The photo in the middle is kind of a tall tower looking thing that's called the Hero, and that is kind of again in the same, it holds more medication. Over on the bottom right, it's a photo of the med center. That's a little more, it's like lower tech. There is definitely in the front of it, there is, it'll show you the date and what day it is, and maybe the time, and you can set reminders. You can put your medications in there for up to a month if the medications that you do take all fit within that. So again, they can be timed reminders, they can be locked and automated, they can alert for missed doses. It really just kind of depends on what the need is for the person.
Okay, so looking at routines, prompts, and cognitive support. This category is actually really effective for preventing safety issues before emergencies happen. It can reduce the need for higher level safety interventions later. Supporting people in their routines can help maintain that independence and safety. There are things like smart speakers, digital schedules, timers, and task prompts that can help people follow through, and then it can reduce anxiety around transition. So they have a little bit better idea of what's happening and when it's going to happen. Predictability improves safety because when routines are supported, people are less likely to improvise in unsafe ways. And by improvise, I mean if they don't know that someone's coming to help them make lunch in a little bit, they might start cooking on their own. Or maybe they didn't realize that they already took their meds, or that they have meds coming up. And by having that schedule and the reminders, they know where they're at in their day, and they don't have to kind of figure it out for themselves constantly. The supports that we can do can be high tech or low tech, and it really just depends on the person and what their needs are. Some examples in the pictures, there's a time timer, just helping somebody to be aware of how much time is left in an activity. It can be really helpful for the people who just want to move on to the next thing, or have a hard time following the time and understanding what that means. There's also a weekly planner on here, and that this one has pictures on it, but it can be pictures or words or a combination of both. And that can just really help orient to the day and what things are coming up. You know, if there's a doctor's appointment or a ride scheduled or just different activities or people visiting. And again, that just kind of helps that like calming down, knowing what's happening, being able to predict what's going on. Also, there's different boards that you can use. You know, you could use the smart home devices for schedule management and reminders. And then even different digital displays where a caregiver could put a message onto that. So the client or the person would be able to read it and be like, oh, you know, don't forget to take your daily walk, or don't forget about setting up this or watching this show at this time. Um, the NOMO I have in the bottom right of this slide, and that's a really cool system because it's not cameras supervising somebody, it's motion sensors that can be placed around a house, and then it uses AI to monitor your routines, and it will notify the caregiver if things are changed or out of routine. So you can put them on the drawer where your medications or the person's medications are. So it will know if they opened that drawer because of the motion sensor on there. They can be in the bathroom, and they have a button that you can help to like call for help. And then also it has a speaker and microphone on it. So if the caregiver gets a notification, they could drop in and say, hey, mom, what's going on? It looks like something happened, or you pressed your button for help. So all different ways to support a person in their routines, giving them as much independence as possible and helping to decrease those anxieties and things.
So environmental safety and prevention of accidents or injury, really. And there's a lot that you can do. So again, just a 4 pictures, because that's all we have time for. One of the first pictures I'll talk about is picture of a stovetop in the top right corner, left corner. And it is showing that there's a device added to the wall behind it. And really there's different options for auto stove shut off, such as the fire avert. You can shut it off from your phone, for an app on your phone. You can get notifications if it's left on. It's also like if there's smoke detected, it'll shut off. Another version of an auto stove shut off would be something called the iGuard, where it automatically shuts the stove off after about 5 minutes of no activity or motion in the kitchen. You can do scheduled locking. It can send alerts, notifications. So a couple really great devices there for some safety concerns in the kitchen or with the stove. The picture next to that on the right upper is it appears to be a gentleman walking through a hallway that is slightly dark, but there are like accent lights. And lighting is so incredibly important. Some of the lighting can be motion activated, or you can activate the lights with your voice or an app using some kind of a home assistant or application, and that really can increase safety. Proper lighting is essentially for safety and preventing accidents such as trips or falls. It can, through the improved visibility in stairways, hallways, or entryways. Another focal point when you're looking at environmental safety in the home is, what about those windows and doors? Are there sensors for those? And there's a number of different kinds. There's the out of the box that can be set up within minutes, where you would get like a chime that plugs into the outlet. Some of them even have a flashing light and a chime, or maybe you can even get one that can clip to your belt loop, but most of the time it's plugging into the outlet. And then you use some double adhesive or maybe screws to a window, a cabinet, a door, a fridge, and you're going to get that chime is going to go off when the magnet on the door or window or whatever you set it on, when they're pulled away from one another. You can also get some that are you can send through your Home Assist, or you can use through your smartphone or tablet, and you'll get the same kind of a notification. Then next to that in the lower right, I have it's a thermostat, and smart thermostats can be accessed through the app or on your smartphone or tablet. Even while you're away, a family member or caregiver can monitor and adjust from anywhere. So I had an example of that. One, it wasn't that the young gal couldn't get to the thermostat and change it, but she didn't understand really temperature. Like she didn't really understand if she was cold or she was hot. And her parents had shown up to her place, lives independently. Her parents had shown up to her place and it was like 50 degrees inside her apartment. And they kept turning the thermostat up and she would just turn it down. And so now they can look at it and make sure it's not too cold or too hot. One other time they went there, they said it was in the 80s, close to 90s. So and that wasn't weather related, it was the thermostat related. And so that's an example. And environmental safety supports are so powerful for many people, especially as cognition changes. And we've heard this a couple times during this webinar. The environment becomes their safety system. So making sure that we have devices and systems set up for people as we age and as things are changing within us or around us, or the people are coming and going. It's just really important to have that safe area where we know it's set up for our person, ourselves, whoever we're taking care of, and that we can increase their safety and independence as much as we can.
Okay, so considering all of that information, this slide is talking about layered supports. And when a person has a complex situation, recommendations aren't typically going to be just one thing. They're going to require layered supports. So my example, if an older adult has cognitive challenges, is a fall risk, and has medication needs, one single device isn't going to make them safe. You know, they might need a med dispenser that helps with those doses or alerts a caregiver if a dose was missed. And if they're wandering at night, they might need lights that are automatically going to turn on, alerts for falls, different monitoring. So we're looking at how can we layer all of these things together to best support them, and kind of like Sherry was saying, become that environment around them that's going to help take care of them and support them, rather than putting all of that on them to take care of themselves. So as complexity increases, the collaboration between providers, family, caregivers, and case managers becomes so important for building a system to actually fit their daily life. There's no single like best technology, it's best fit. So each person is going to have different situations and different needs. So it's really understanding to look at all of these different pieces to find a way to support them in as encompassing of a way as possible. And then also training and follow-up prevent abandonment. And they really are what helps a person be able to use the technology or the team understand the technology that's in place. So here's my little infographic again. And this is just looking at layering the supports. So this is a helpful way of, if a person has a complex situation, a helpful way to think about it is combine an emergency support with a routine with a cognitive support, and then the environmental support. So environment, routine, and emergency support. And that might be wearing a pendant or having the fall detection, two-way voice things so somebody could drop in and have that audio connection with them. Looking at routines like the smart speakers or digital schedules, timers, or the medication assistants. And then also looking at the environment around them. Do they need something to automatically shut the stove off, or sensors on the doors and smart thermostats? Like what pieces of each of these can go together to best support them?
When to refer AT to support safety and cognition. So if there's repeated safety incidences or something new coming up, medication errors, Missed routines or missed appointments where you're getting notifications of missed appointments that are not transportation related, because I do hear that one as well a lot. Increased supervision needs, or maybe having to check in on somebody more often. Technology already purchased is unused. And that's pretty important right there. Just making sure if something is purchased, do they know how to use it? Do they know it's there? Do they understand what it's for? And do they feel comfortable with it? Staff and caregivers unsure of how to support safely. So early referrals often can prevent the crisis-driven decisions later. There are so many tools out there that can assist to create greater independence and safety. So if you ever are in need, or wondering if somebody is in need, it's safe to make a referral. And there's many of us out here that all are slightly different, and really we're all here to do what we love doing, and assisting with people, increasing their safety, increasing their independence, and keeping things rolling from day to day, where it doesn't need to be a worry or a stress, or trying to alleviate some of that worry and stress for people. So I would say if you're wondering about doing a referral, it doesn't hurt to do a referral.
And that's all that we have.
Thank you, ladies. Just for time purposes, I'm going to hold questions and welcome Kathy up. So welcome, Kathy.
There we go. Sorry, I needed to unmute. All right. Can you hear me okay, Kiri?
Yes, ma'am.
Good, good. Okay, so I am going to go through just a little bit about using assistive tech in CRS environments or group home environments. All of the slides I'm going to show you will be available to you, so I'm not going to go through all pieces on it because I know we're kind of short for time. I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to ask some other questions too. So there is obviously reasons that we are, sorry, need to move here, that we are having to look at this more and more within CRSs. We have a aging population that is really looking at needs of devices, needs of supports that can help staff that are in the group homes be able to really make sure somebody can stay in their home as long as possible. We end up being often the families for these people long term, and we don't want to move them into another environment if at all possible, if we can use devices to help care for them through their aging process. So I'm going to give you some of my favorites, or some of the things that we often find that we're needing. One of them in particular is around safety environmental monitoring. So these are things like fall and movement monitoring, devices that let us know if somebody's getting out of bed so that staff can go and see what's happening, ensure that they're going to be safe, that they're not a fall risk. So those fall detection devices, or more of those sensors that let us know if somebody's getting in and out of their bed or in and out of their chairs, can be very helpful to make sure staff are there at the right time. There are also sensors that can go on the floor, that if an individual steps on it, it alerts that there is pressure happening there, and it lets staff know that. And then, of course, there's wearable fall detectors that we already talked a little bit about. But those wearable fall detectors also can let us know if somebody's fallen. The wearable ones are more detecting things after it's happened. The ones I prefer are the ones that are alerting us to somebody getting out of bed, so that we can try to prevent a fall, try to prevent that type of a situation from happening and somebody getting hurt. So we use tools for those things. The other way we sometimes use some tools, we have mobility and physical supports. Sometimes we might have an individual that has gone down to the floor for whatever reason, and they are a challenge to get back up off the floor. And a lot of group homes end up calling the fire department to have people come and help get them off the floor, especially if they're too heavy to lift by one staff person. There are devices that we have used, that we've been able to purchase, that allow us to safely lift somebody from the floor into a seated position. And that's been very helpful in our relationship with the fire department so that we're not having to call them every time somebody would go down to the ground. So those types of fall recovery lifts can be very valuable. Other things that we often are doing a lot of is that I really like is the nurse call buttons or the voice activated call buttons. I've seen in a lot of group homes where it will be used where there is a doorbell that alerts the whole house if somebody wants some assistance. But there are much more efficient ways these days to have somebody called to a bedside if somebody needs assistance. There are all kinds of nurse call buttons, portable call buttons, things that can be used by an individual where it's just alerting the staff person of that they're needing some supports or some assistance. And then other thing around physical supports is around incontinence supports. We get a lot of questions about somebody being incontinent in the middle of the night and not wanting them to stay in that all night long with their attends on, but wanting the staff to be notified so that they can be changed and cleaned up as soon as possible. And so there's several incontinence supports that we've used, such as Fit Right Connect, HumiCheck, eBriefs. There's several of them out there right now that can be very helpful in alerting staff that somebody needs to be cleaned up, and so that they aren't sitting in that wet attend all night long. So those are some of my favorites for mobility and physical supports. Some of my favorites for health and wellness supports are the wearable biometrics. So a lot of individuals as they age have all kinds of health issues, and we're wanting to know things like what's their heart rate at this moment, what is their oxygen saturation, what is their heart rhythm. Some of them can be seizure detection or seizure alerts. I guess I should say potential seizure alerts. They don't actually detect a seizure, but they give you some of the biometrics that a seizure might be happening. And then they can also be tracking things like daily exercise and steps. So some of the ones that we have some good success with, one of them is Boundary Care. You may have heard of that one already in this presentation a little bit. That's been one that's been very helpful to be able to be alerted if somebody has challenges that are coming up around those biometrics. And then the other one that is really, really helpful for CRSs and group home is blood glucose monitoring devices. Being able to know what somebody's blood glucose level is at all times and be able to track that and see the adjustments that are going on has been very helpful. So some of those, such as Dexcom, are devices that can link up to a cell phone and alert if somebody's blood glucose level has gone too low or if it's gone too high. So that seems like a really good monitoring device for especially individuals that are brittle diabetics. And then the last area I'm going to go into here is wandering elopement supports. So we may have a lot of people as they age that struggle with understanding, not leaving the house or going outside when it's too cold. And if a staff is off somewhere else working with another person, they may not know a door has opened unless we have door sensors or door chimes of some sort in place. There can be pressure sensors that go on the floor in front of a door as well that let you know if somebody stepped on it. And just general motion detectors that let us know if somebody's coming in and out of the environment. Also, along with that, at times we've been able to use a GPS tracking of some sort, whether it's an air tag that is placed inside the individual's shoe that lets us know where they're at. Angel Sense has been another really helpful one for us, which also will let us know exactly where somebody's at. And then Boundary Care does have the option to use a GPS tracking feature on the Apple Watch if necessary. So those are some of the ones we would use for GPS tracking, which is not something we automatically jump to. It is something that we would use as a real safety concerning issue and also as a rights violation. So we want to make sure that we are doing all that we need to do to ensure that we're not tracking somebody, but in some situations it's been necessary due to safety issues. And those are some of the highlights for, what you might consider as you're looking at implementing technology devices in a CRS or a group home. So I will go ahead and pass it back to Kiri.
Thank you, Kathy. All right, now we have about 15 minutes for Ask the Expert. If you have any questions that you have not popped into Q&A yet, feel free to do so. Experts, feel free to come on video and I will start asking the questions that we currently have in Q&A. So we will start out with the first question that was asked. It was mentioned that a lower fridge could be waiver covered, but our understanding is that the waiver cannot cover appliances based on similar past situations that we asked DHS about.
Mhm.
Can you clarify this, please?
Yeah, the refrigerator, a lower refrigerator would not be covered by waiver. Pull out shelves in the refrigerator to have the things the person needs to be able to get lower to pull out to them would be. So sorry about that. I meant to say the shelves that can be adapted in the fridge would be waiver paid for.
Awesome.
I just wanted to add that um, there's several different like waiver rules that kind of um, conflict with the, conflict with assistive technology needs. So it's a very, very, very individualized service because of that. So there may be times when certain appliances that are atypical might be needed to allow somebody to be able to um, cook food for themselves, or versus a very costly EAA home modification. Sometimes there can be just modified appliances. So that's something that is true, that appliances are not able to be covered under the waiver. However, in some individual situations, it it can kind of bypass that rule by being assistive technology and can still be authorized. But I would make sure that before doing that you check with myself or Elena or somebody to make sure that that it would be appropriate in that instance. What we don't want to see happen is have people say, "Oh, you know what? These air fryers can be covered by the waiver now for everybody." And it's like, nope, 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 nope. So which is what typically happens, right? It's covered for one, so now it's like coverable by the waiver, but that's not how it should be looked at. It should be looked at on a very individual basis. I also wanted to add, I can't find the question now, but there was a question that I answered in the Q&A regarding the ability for EAA to be authorized for people who live in a CRS or provider controlled setting. We do have an amendment that is currently with CMS that would make that change. However, it has not been approved by CMS yet, so it has not been implemented yet for the disability waivers. So DD, BI, CAC, and CADI. EW, this is already something that is not allowed for people on the EW waiver, unfortunately. So just wanted to make that clarification. Thanks.
Thank you, Anna. Our next question: can people that live in an ICF who are not on a waiver yet get an assistive technology assessment? Are assistive technology assessments paid for by MA? Because they are low income, how are assistive technology supports funded if not on waiver or low income and only have MA funding? So essentially, let's talk about how assistive tech assessments are paid for, the different ways.
Yeah. So you can get an assistive technology assessment in a clinic. There's some home care services that will do them also. So that would be paid for by your insurance or your MA directly. And then waiver does traditionally pay for them too. But if the person's not open to a waiver, several of us have grants that people can qualify for to get those assistive technology assessments. And then anything else you guys know about, you can add.
I know when I was a case manager, I specifically sent a lot of folks to your organization, Sue, when you were doing a lot of that grant activity. So the grants really do work for folks who don't have a waiver and things like that. There are a lot of options available, thankfully.
There's the ARC micro grants as well, which you can apply for, and they can be up to $5,000 now, which is wonderful.
That's a great point, Anna. The ARC Micro Grant is a fantastic opportunity, and it's a pretty low threshold to apply for. They're very supportive in the application for it. You can do it online, you can get assistance applying for it. And if anyone needs more information on that, feel free to reach out to us. The next question is there a list of DME providers that bill the waiver for these services and equipment? And if there is, where can I find it?
There is a state site, but Anna, I don't know if you have it offhand that you can
I know,
go
well,
to, and it will show vendors. It's just not always updated.
yeah, yeah, there is, I think that it's the Minnesota Help Info, that you can look to find providers of those services. However, there are a lot of providers listed that are no longer providing those services. So it could be very frustrating to try to just, randomly call them. Elena, do you have, I believe you may have a list that we've created for our technology trainings that we do with the lead agencies. Does that cover, I can't remember though if it covers that specific group or not.
Yeah, unfortunately, it does not cover DME. So it was more specifically, and it hasn't been updated since the grant ended. So I haven't re-looked at that list to see if any additional like AT vendors are available in the state. One of the things, I mean, if you ever have questions, if you're looking for a specific region or anything like that, I think I put it in like a couple of the answers throughout. You're certainly welcome to reach out to Minnesota NEAT. We've got a form on our website that you can contact us at, or the info@mn-neat.org email address. That comes to me, but we are a really big group of technology experts around the state. So if I can't answer a question, I'm going to reach out to the group and I'll get information, or I might put you in touch with somebody very specific, like one of the presenters on today's calls, for example. So just keep in mind, especially since for timing today, we're probably not going to get through all of these amazing questions that you guys have been submitting. So just as long as you have that as a resource to follow up with us with additional questions, I want you all to be able to get your questions answered and be able to get in contact. So I'll post that in an announcement here, just like that email address and that contact form link. So you all have that, but certainly welcome to reach out. And I wanted to share that Minnesota Help.info, and somebody actually just chatted this too in the Q&A. It is no longer the website name. It is now mn.gov/AD resources. So I'm actually going to answer that to thank you to our anonymous attendee who just put that. So I just put the link for that now in response to them pointing that out. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. This next question is a great one. It would be nice for presenters to touch on technology options and barriers in general for people and their caregivers in which English is a second language or they do not speak English. Does anyone have thoughts or experience on that?
I would say, first off, we always use interpreters, and we try to use interpreters are familiar with, because assistive technology is hard to explain. And then make sure that we can explain it to the person who's interpreting too a bit with the person's permission, so that they don't say the wrong words to describe it, because that is hard. Not everything translates fully into other languages. And then we do spend more time in those sessions too, because it does take more time and training and some unique skills to make sure, again, that everything's being understood. and that we're also being person-centered and culturally sensitive to what may or may not be something that family is interested in or person.
I will also say there are some really good resources being created for interpreters specifically in the field of disability services, and we should probably add in assistive technology. So if you work in this field, you know it is super difficult to get interpreters that know our lingo and the acronyms and all that kind of stuff. So there are organizations working on making glossaries for interpreters that have the specific language and acronyms, and we should probably add assistive technology terms to that as well to help out our interpreters. So thank you for that. And I know specifically United Hmong with Disabilities is working on a good one right now.
Gary, before we jump into another question, I wanted to share, thank you, Suzette Jameson, for posting a really wonderful list of internet access for low-income households. If you guys didn't see that post, that's in the Q&A. So please check that out, and thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you. Okay, we have time for one or two more questions. Thank you for all the thank yous. I'm scrolling through those right now. Oh, this is a good one that might affect a decent amount of people in here. I do have a frequent faller, and we are calling 911 for assistance in getting them up. I think the Ramex could be very, very beneficial. How do we go about getting it covered? And I think maybe even more broadly, talking about that situation of frequent falls.
Just really quick, I do want to note that internet was previously coverable by when someone was on CDCS. Prior to the unbundling work that went into effect several months ago. So internet is no longer able to be covered by the waiver for anyone. And it's not just our state either, it's every state. CMS went so far as to even rescind approval that some other states had to cover internet. So they are just very anti-covering internet. And so that was something that we had planned to pursue, trying to get approval. But given that information, we just know it's kind of a non-starter, at least right now. I also wanted to add about the micro grants that I mentioned. That should only be used for people who don't have waiver services. If someone is on a waiver, then by all means, the waiver should be covering whatever it is, not using the grant. We've had some situations where case managers have thought that the grant needed to be accessed or applied for, or utilized, what have you, before the waiver could fund it, because the waiver was payer of last resort, and that is just not the case. We want to save those grants for people who don't have waiver services.
Thank you. Okay, we are going to wrap up. I would like to say if anybody has questions that we did not get to, because we did not get to everything today, we welcome you to reach out to us. We have a contact form on our website, mn-neat.org/contact us, or you can email us directly, info@mn-neat.org. We're happy to answer any questions that you have. As Elena said, if you get in touch with her, you get in touch with all of us. There's a lot more than just us presenters today. There's a whole network of us throughout the state willing to support you and everyone that you work with. Thank you for taking your time today, and we look forward to seeing you at our next quarterly webinar. Have a great day.
Thank you.